I need some help. I need some volunteers. I am studying for my doctorate and I'm taking a class called Temperament Testing. Basically, I need some volunteers willing to take a test that classifies temperament. Basically, it'll tell them what temperament they are in different areas of life. I'll explain a little bit of it to you. The test is actually $30, which I will pay as the student. I just need the volunteers will take it. This test is something that Christian counselors often use for their clients so that they can get an understanding of the type of temperament the client has. Let me explain this a bit and see if it's not something that you're interested in and if you're willing to help me with this. Okay, the instrument being used is the FIRO-B. It is a fundamental interpersonal relationship orientation and behavior. It helps individuals understand their behavior and the behavior of others. It was developed and introduced by William Schultz in 1958. He received his PhD from UCLA in the 1950s. He was part of a peer group at the University of Chicago's Counseling Center that included Carl Rogers, Thomas Gordon, Abraham Laszlo, and Elias Porter. Those names may not mean anything to you if you are not a psychology student or if you haven't studied psychology, but those are some pretty big names in the circles of psychology. The theory is based on the belief that when people get together in a group, there are three main interpersonal needs they are looking to obtain. That is, first, the need for affection and openness, second, the need for control, and three, inclusion. This test or this questionnaire has been scientifically validated. Okay, this is not a Christian thing. This was developed by secular, that means non-religious psychologists, and it has been used in a non-religious setting. It is an instrument that is like something that is used to measure something. It measures behavior. A scale measures how much we weigh. If we step on a scale, it will tell us how much we weigh. A ruler will measure how long something is. And this instrument will measure behavior in these three areas. Nothing religious about it at all. Okay, temperament theory is an ancient theory going back to ancient Greece. Okay, now much of what was taught by the ancient Greece culture has been discarded and is no longer taught. However, the Christian counseling associations had, starting, maybe in the 1960s, 1970s, they started using this as a framework. And so it is used among Christian counselors, and even some secular, non-religious counselors use it, but it is commonly used in Christian counseling. This is the idea. A temperament is inborn, and that comes from the ancient Greeks. That's what they taught. Temperament is inborn. Now, it's not necessarily genetic, but it's inborn. It could be prenatal, something that we develop while our mother is pregnant with us. Character is learned. This is learned behavior. We learn this primarily from the family that we grew up in, but of course our religion and our culture also have a big impact. The schools that we attend have a big impact on our character, the friends we make, and so forth. Personality then is a mixture of both the temperament and the character together. Personality can be tweaked, that is, our personality can change because our character can change. Our character is learned behavior, and any behavior we learn, we can unlearn. The temperament, however, in theory, is inborn, and thus the temperament doesn't change. Okay, Dr. Ordinal and his wife Phyllis, they both have their PhDs in Christian counseling, and they founded the National Christian Counseling Association. He served 6 years as a director of counseling in CBN 700 clubs. Dr. Arnold, he was a United Methodist minister for 8 years before his appointment at CBN. He was elected to the Who's Who in the in the Leading American Executives in 1991, and has been awarded several honorary doctorates and citations, which include the Eagles Award and the Award of the Good Shepherd. Dr. Arnold serves as the Bishop of the National Conservative Christian Church and has personally authored a book titled A Touch of Grace. So he's a mainstream Christian. He's not a fringe Christian that is a cult leader or anything like that. He's just a mainstream Christian pastor who became a counselor. Dr. Ono developed a counseling model over 7 years through systematic research with over 5,000 individuals. The counselees sought help for depression, inter and intrapersonal conflict, marriage and family dysfunctions, and anxiety. The purpose of the research was to, number one, increase the effectiveness of the NCCA's therapeutic procedure. Secondly, measure the percentage of success within the controlled environment. And third, develop an accurate clinical testing procedure for the initial identification of a counselee's temperament. Okay, this was a lot of work, and so now he needed to test whether or not these things were accurate, whether or not this classification was accurate. Initial research was done on 5,000 individuals in a study done from June 1982 to June 1991. The FIRO-B and the FIRO-BC questionnaires were used to classify individuals into temperament. Now understand, the FIRO-B and the FIRO-BC are scientifically validated instruments. There wasn't a question about whether or not they could accurately measure behavior. The question here is, could those instruments, could the data that those instruments produce be used to classify individuals into temperaments? So there's two things going on here. Number one, the questionnaire measures behavior in 3 areas. Number two, the National Christian Counseling Association was then taking that data and using it to classify individuals into temperaments. What the question was, is the classification system working? The question was not whether or not the questionnaires are able to measure behavior. The characteristics of these temperaments were explained to the individuals after the classification was made for validation. Okay, so after they took the tests, then it was explained to them, this is your temperament, these are characteristics of your temperament. And they were asked, does that describe you? Does that sound like you? They're trying to figure out, is this working? In 2,600 cases, the family members were also consulted. So there was 5,000 people in this study. Of those 5,000, 2,600 of them had their family members also consulted. So they asked the family members, does these characteristics describe your family member? The results revealed a 93% accuracy. So it seemed like they were onto something, seemed to be working. Okay, a separate study was done in 1991 with 250 licensed therapists and 7,403 counselees. In that study, 95.3% of the counselees verified the classifications were accurate. Okay, a third study was done from 1991 to 1998. It involved 21,046 participants. In that study, 91.2% of the participants verified the classifications were accurate. So it's got a pretty sound track record of over 90%. 9 out of 10 people that take the questionnaire, answer the questionnaire, the National Christian Counseling Association is able to tell them what their temperament is, and the participant, the counselee, is in agreement that that fits them. Okay, these are the temperaments real quickly here. There's 5 temperaments. Okay, and it looks at the 3 needs, the affection, or 3 areas, the affection, control, and inclusion. Okay. You see, it looks at the expressed need and the responsive need. Let me explain that to you a bit. The expressed need is how much you express a certain characteristic or a certain area of your life, and the response need is how much you need that. So, for example, if we talk about affection, how much do I express affection, and how much do I need others to express affection to me? So, for example, I'm sanguine in the affection area. So I express lots of affection. I love to give people hugs, and I tell my wife that I love her a lot. I give her lots of affection. And I also need lots of affection. I need my wife to hug me. I need her to tell she loves me. I need that acceptance from her. And so I am sanguine. I need to express it, and I also need to receive it. Area of control. Okay. Well, in the control area, how much control do we need over others, and how much are we allowing others to control us? Myself, I'm phlegmatic, so I don't need to control a lot, but I need some control over other people, and I'm willing to give others some control over me. So that puts me right in that middle area of being phlegmatic. Okay, now inclusion, is the social instinct of how many friends we have and so forth. So let's say a party, if the expressed need would be, if I'm having a party, how many of my friends am I going to invite? And the response need is, if my friends are having a party, how much do I need to be invited to their party? And some of these temperaments can be split. And this is, for me, it's a split temperament. In the expressed need, I'm sanguine. So if I'm having a party, I'm inviting the whole town. Everybody's getting invited to my party. But in the response area, I'm phlegmatic, which means, unless it's really a close friend, if a close friend of mine or my brother, my sister are having a party or a wedding or something, I need to be invited. But if it's just a simple acquaintance or something, I don't need to be invited to every party in town. Yeah, so it's not a big deal. If we're not close friends, I don't need to be invited to everybody's party. So I'm sanguine in the expressed area, and I am phlegmatic in the responsive area. So that kind of gives an idea of how this works. Now, the thing is, there's no good or bad temperament. It's not like melancholy is bad. Melancholies are often artists. They make the world a beautiful place. Supines are like Martha in the Bible, Mary and Martha. They make wonderful. They serve the Lord. They make wonderful people in the church that do a lot of God's work for them. Clerics are the take control type of people, and they grab a task and they take it until it's completely finished. Sanguines are the warm, charismatic people. A lot of the evangelists are sanguines. Phlegmatic are the very calm and well-balanced. A lot of our accountants are phlegmatics. So each area, each temperament has weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and each area has strengths. So it is not, the test doesn't say, oh, you're a bad temperament, or oh, you're a good temperament. The test just identifies us for who we are, and God created us this way. So God created the supine with a mission, and God created the choleric with a mission. And each of us has a mission in life, and each of us have needs, and the needs of a sanguine are different than the needs of a melancholy. So this test helps us identify what our needs are. Okay, so basically, if you can help me and answer the questions in this questionnaire, what they want us to do is to answer them very quickly, not to give them too much thought. Because if we think about them too hard, then they wind up identifying more our personality than our temperament. So just quickly, what comes to mind, answer. Don't worry if it's the right answer, wrong answer, because there really is no right and there is no wrong answer. And we're shooting for the temperament. The results then will be sent to my professor for the class. She has her PhD in Christian counseling. She goes over the results. She contacts me. She goes over the results with me. I contact you. I go over the results with you. Learning our temperament can be very helpful, because oftentimes when we don't know what our temperament is, we don't know what our needs are, and sometimes our needs are not being met, and we can be much happier in life and feel much more fulfilled when our needs are being met. And sometimes some people struggle with issues like depression or with anxiety, because they have either unmet needs or they are finding unhealthy ways to meet those needs. And so when we know what our temperament needs are, we can find healthy ways to meet those needs, and we can live a happier, more fulfilling life. So if you could help me with this, that will be like a win-win situation. You kind of learn what temperaments you have and what those needs are, and hopefully you have a more fulfilled life as a result. And I'm able to get through this class and move on to my next class and get closer to earning my PhD. Okay, so I would appreciate it so much if you can help me out with this.